What is up, Geeks and Geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast, and this is going to be our San Diego Comic-Con 2019 recap. I am your host, Steady, and with me again is the man, the myth, the legend. You know him as JC.
Hey, everybody.
And we had a special guest today. He is the founder of Marvel Studios News. I just call him Mr. Marvel. He is the one and only Sean Gerber. Sean, how you doing, sir?
Hello. I'm doing great, Ted. Thank you for having me, and also nice to meet you, JC. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And Sean, first thing, I gotta just ask you right off the bat, because I'm fully aware of the toll and the endurance that an entire weekend, especially Hall H, can take on a person. So, have you fully recovered yet? I know you and I aren't getting any younger, so it takes a little bit longer each time.
I think I'm okay. I cheat now. I go home on Saturday night. That's the key thing.
There you go.
As soon as Marvel's done with Hall H, I head to the train station and I go from San Diego back up to LA. And I found that really helps with recovery because Sunday's great. I mean, I love Comic-Con, but by the time Sunday comes around, it's super packed now. Sunday actually used to be a slower day. It's not anymore. So it's just too packed. That used to be my final lap around the exhibit floor. Yeah. Not anymore.
Just forget
it. Forget it. And so with that, there's usually not a lot of great panels on Sunday. I don't care about Supernatural, so I don't need to be there for that Hall H panel.
Sorry about
that. I'm like 10 years behind, but it was pretty cool to see that that's the last time they'll be in there. But it's funny. You mentioned you're recovering is like people at our age probably recovering from a hangover. It's very similar, I would assume.
It's rough.
Yeah. It can be tough, but going home on Saturday night makes a world of difference. So now I'm a few days removed from it and feeling okay.
Well, fantastic, man. I'm actually going to briefly talk about the time that we met, not to get all romantic and bromance on anybody here.
You better play some romance music in the background.
No, it was a pretty good meet cute, so.
It was fantastic, only because he really helped shape my first experience and kind of showed me exactly how tough this was going to be. It was my first year going to San Diego. Yeah. I went completely alone only because I didn't want to drag my family through the hell of reconnaissance work, going to San Diego and trying to learn the ins and outs all about Comic-Con. So I'm in line waiting for the Saturday Hall H trailer. For those of you who are not fully aware, San Diego's largest panel auditorium is known as Hall H. Between 6,000 and 7,000 people in this auditorium. And it roughly takes 30-something, 40 hours to actually wait in line if you want an ideal seat into the major panels, which are always usually on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. First year I went, DC Comics was unveiling their Batman v Superman trailer. That was the biggest thing that everybody was waiting for. Marvel also had a huge slew of movie trailers that they were going to be releasing that weekend. I'm standing next to an individual, Mr. Sean Gerber, in line. We're just chatting about the only thing we can talk about, comics and superhero movies and anything else. And then I finally asked him what his full name is, and he says Sean Gerber, and that automatically clicked a light bulb in my head. I'm like, I listen to this podcast known as Modern Myth Media, and there's a guy that hosts it known as Sean Gerber. Is that you, Sean Gerber? And he said, that is him, Sean Gerber. So for hours, we're sitting here talking, and I'm talking to the guy that I listen to every week on the Modern Myth Media podcast. So that's how we met, and the only thing I can say after that is we probably either on purpose or on accident bump into each other every single year at Comic-Con. We're always waiting in the Hall H
the same
line.
Lines, yeah.
Yep.
But even when we're not planning on meeting at a specific place or time, we usually bump into each other, which I would say is pretty miraculous because, what, Sean, there's 500,000 people in San Diego at this point?
Nah, I mean, it's somewhere between like 100 to 150,000. I mean, as far as attendees, and then obviously you have plenty of people who are there who are not, they don't have a badge, but there's a million things to do outside of San Diego Comic-Con in the Gaslamp Quarter. So, there's, I don't know if it's quite 500,000, but it's a lot of people. So just bumping into someone casually, it's pretty hard to do that. Like, I have friends who I've been going to Comic-Con with for years or been doing podcasts with or whatever, and we're at the same place at those events, and we never bump into each other. So I guess there's a little bit of fate going on.
There you go.
I like it.
And we'll probably talk about some of those other fate or magical moments, not just between me and Sean, but just like The thing that I love most about San Diego and the convention is that the things that aren't expected, the things that happen just on happenstance, I call them magic moments. You can't plan them. You can't prepare for them. They just happen completely out of the blue, and I just embrace it with all my heart and soul every time something crazy happens. And we'll get into a few of those. But first, I want to make sure and plug your site, Marvel Studios News. How long have you been running with the website now?
That website's been going around for just about 3 years now. So marvelstudiosnews.com, I launched it in August of 2016. So yeah, we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of the site. The podcast, also Marvel Studios News, it actually predates the website. The podcast has been around since, I think, 2015. I think they're about before Age of Ultron. I don't know. I remember that much for it. It's been around for a little while. It was kind of a spin-off of Modern Myth Media, which is not around anymore, but that's because the Marvel show just kind of took off, and we just kind of went that way. And then I started hosting other podcasts for the DC kind of stuff, so I just wasn't able to really keep Modern Myth Media going. But yeah, now we have Marvel Studios News, and we actually just posted our Comic-Con Hall H show, and that's going to be a lot longer than this. That's a almost 3-hour show. Because I am famously long-winded, so it goes. We go really in depth on everything Marvel Studios put out there on Saturday.
You know, it's really in depth when it's twice as long as the entire panel was on Saturday.
Yeah, no, and we, Avengers Endgame is 3 hours. That's nothing. Our spoiler review's 4 hours. So
holy cow. Nice. Yeah, you got us beat. We were on like, what, 2.5 maybe?
Well, I think we're on a smaller bandwidth plan than he is probably. So
Definitely.
That's probably why, yeah. So.
All right, real quick, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Comic-Con, for those that have never been, for those that have an idea of what they believe Comic-Con to be, you've probably been asked this a million times, and I just want to hear it from your own words. How would you describe, as best you can, the whole event that is Comic-Con International?
There is no one Comic-Con International because it's whatever you make it out to be for yourself, because depending on what it is you want to do, because you have to prioritize. If you have this idea in your head that you're going to be seeing everything, it's not going to happen. A lot of the things you want are going to be booked at the same time, or even if it's not booked at the same time, to make it into one thing, you're going to have to be in line for it, which means you're going to miss another thing that you might care about. So you really do have to kind of look at the schedule ahead of time. But it is an absolute blast, and you can have any kind of con experience that you want. If you want to focus more on parties, not all of them are easy to get into, but there's plenty of parties. If you want to walk the floor, you can do that. I don't like being shoulder to shoulder with that many people for that long of a period of time. So show floor for me is like hit it in like little 20-minute doses to go to 1 or 2 booths at a time and then get out. But then, yeah, when it comes to panels, if you care about comics, not the toughest ticket to get at Comic-Con. So you can usually get into those panels without having to wait a ton of time. TV, you got to wait a little bit longer. But if you want the movie stuff in Hall H, it's a commitment. But at the same time, there's a lot of ways to kind of work that system with the way people hold spots in the Hall H line for each other, which I don't totally love, by the way. But the way that system is broken. But there are ways to see a lot more than you think you could. But I'm a man of the people, and I'm honest. So if I'm not waiting, I don't like. There's people who like have line sitters and all this stuff, so they can go to everything. I don't do that. So I just I mainly prioritize Saturday and Hall H, which used to be a great bookend between Warner Brothers and DC, and then Marvel at the end. But now, at least this year anyway, Warner Brothers decided not to show up.
Yeah. Finally, just the whole overview of Comic-Con itself before we talk about the details of it all. I know you have like a million different highlights, million different memories on things you've seen, done, people you've met, celebrities or whatnot. Sure. Give us maybe one of your favorite highlights that comes to mind.
Oh, man. Probably my first Comic-Con was 2009, and I really just got completely spoiled that year. It was more from a DC perspective. So I met Adam West at a panel that was about the psychology of the Joker. I met Jerry Robinson, who created the Joker, and got him to sign like a little doodle. It was pre-printed, so he didn't like hand draw anything. So he was a little bit older at that point in time, so I wasn't going to make him draw me anything. But he was nice enough to sign a little picture for me, so that was great. And then that was the year that the very first Arkham Asylum video game was coming out, and I got to do press roundtables for that. So that meant I got to meet and interview Kevin Conroy.
Hey.
Got to meet and interview Paul Dini, and who I think is one of the greatest Batman writers of all time, easily, hands down. Not just Batman, by the way. But then also got to meet, he wasn't part of the roundtables, but I got to meet him very, very briefly because he was there for the panel because, of course, he voices the Joker. That was when I got to meet Mark Hamill.
Man.
It was this, and so all of, especially the Adam West was a little bit earlier in the day, but Kevin Conroy, Paul Dini, and Mark Hamill, that all happened in the span of like an hour to meet all of them. So that one was pretty, that was pretty extraordinary. And then, of course, there's tons of highlight moments in Hall H.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you doing that. I have a few memories I wanted to get off my chest as well because, like I said earlier, there's these magical moments that you can't plan for, that you can't expect to happen. They just kind of happen out of the blue. That's the magic that is Comic-Con. Anything can happen anywhere.
Yep.
And for me, it was probably last year because there was things that happened like back to back to back.
You told me these. This is crazy. Yeah.
And it started with Thursday, opening day one of the exhibit floor. I enter with my son. You know AJ. You've met AJ before. Yep. He's talked to you many a times while we're sitting in line. We go into Hall H. We're near the front of the line. I'm sorry, not Hall H. We go into the expo floor. We're near the front of the line. And we had one priority for Thursday, and that was to obtain tickets to visit the Millennium Falcon cockpit replica from the Star Wars booth. Had a big, beautiful Millennium Falcon cockpit. It even had like a corridor that you had to walk into. It was absolutely miraculous. And in order to do that, you have to obtain these tickets. And there's a limited number of tickets each day, so you need to get that first. We walk into the door. We go onto the floor. I lose my son in 30 seconds. And being the dedicated Star Wars parent that I am, I decided to go for the tickets regardless. And fret not, because I knew exactly where he would probably end up. Right next to Star Wars was the Hasbro booth. He was a collector of the Transformers movie toys at this point in time. So I grabbed our Star Wars Millennium Falcon exhibit tickets, went back to the Hasbro booth. He's sitting there looking at all of the Transformers. And because he was doing that, they were also handing out signing tickets. I happened to grab one, looked at the name of the signee that I was getting, and it happened to be one Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, Tommy Oliver. Mm-hmm. So in that 1 5-minute span, I got my tickets to visit the Falcon. I got a signing with Jason David Frank. And then even later on that weekend, we just, again, all by chance, were able to meet the entire cast of The Walking Dead, including Andrew Lincoln, who that was his last Comic-Con for now. When his movie comes out, I'm sure he's going to get back at San Diego. But that was just like the best weekend. And we were still in Hall H, had great seats. Sean was there as well. We all kind of helped each other out. And great, just all around. It was like a perfect event, weekend, just the entire last year. Yep. Let's talk San Diego finally, because there's just way too many things to talk about. The first thing I want to call out, because it's probably the thing that got the most buzz on our social media pages, was the Witcher trailer featuring Henry Cavill. Sean, did you get a chance to check this out?
I actually haven't had a chance to check out the Witcher trailer. Like, the hardest thing about Comic-Con is when you're there, especially because I'm kind of a one-man operation doing the stuff that I'm doing to cover things for my site and everything. I usually end up missing at least a few things, and the Witcher stuff is definitely something I miss. I've caught up to a lot of other things, but the Witcher trailer I haven't actually caught up to yet.
And you had mentioned you weren't a big follower of the games, but you did see the trailer. What were your first thoughts about that?
It's hard for me to judge it, but it's Henry Cavill just showing another side of what he can do. So that's really the first thing that jumped out to me.
First thing that jumped out to me is how much more muscular he already is than his previous Clark Kent form.
He's come a long way from the Sun in The Count of Monte Cristo, which is the first movie I can remember him being in.
That goes way back.
Yeah, I know. So it's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's a stark contrast to Clark Kent, to gosh, he was even in The Tudors as well. But yeah, this honestly, the only experience I've had with The Witcher has been with him appearing in Soul Calibur 6, which I played briefly. That was really about it. So,
well, it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm glad it's on Netflix, so we don't have to buy another streaming service. I'm running out of money of streaming service that I got to buy. Sean, are you already on the Disney Plus?
Well, I would be if I could be, but I haven't. They're not accepting pre-orders yet. I would sign up right now. I would sign up for 10 years in advance just to lock in that price because I know it's not staying there. I know it's definitely not. But it's interesting. I mean, even with Netflix being where they're at, I'm already more excited about Disney Plus and HBO Max than I am Netflix because those have most of the IP that I care the most about. So I think I'm probably still going to have Netflix, but I definitely can't not have Disney Plus and HBO Max for Marvel, DC, and Star Wars purposes. Just I have to have it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN bundle because that's probably what I'm going to be on. That's everything. Hulu's going to cover Animaniacs for me, so I see that definitely. Plus, all the Marvel streaming, all the Star Wars streaming, Endgame, they've already said is going to be exclusively on Disney Plus as well, so we're not going to get that on Netflix. So
no, we definitely are not.
Nope.
I also, though, Netflix is not new to this game. They've kind of foreseen the writing on the wall for many years now. So, of course, they got adapted. Henry Cavill doing The Witcher, and, of course, they got more Stranger Things, and they have all these other great original content series coming out. I'm sure they're going to be, just fine with what they're coming out with. It's really great to see all of these different services competing.
Definitely. It's the cord cutting age has hit, so it's competition's always good,
It's coming closer and closer. Yeah. One of these days, man, cable's going to be completely gone.
Yeah.
Sean, I know you did watch the Watchmen HBO trailer. What was the biggest thing that jumped out to you, or what are you most looking forward to with the Watchmen?
I mean, it looks like there's a bit of a Dr. Manhattan tease in there, so that's totally what jumped out to me, and just I mean, hit me in all the right places. Like, I am so excited about that. I mean, I'm just excited about the series overall. When it was first announced, I was very skeptical. You can't help but be skeptical when you know the bar is set as high as it is with Watchmen. Anytime somebody even wants to touch it, you're like, you sure about that?
Yeah.
And then, so I wasn't really sure. I knew if it was great that I would be interested, but I was very apprehensive about it. But after they started showing those little, tiny little 3-second teasers, I think that was around the Super Bowl earlier this year, they started showing some of those things. And I started thinking, okay, this actually looks pretty good. And the cast is pretty great as well. So that trailer, it's definitely got me pumped up. And now I'm at the point where I'm thinking this could totally live up to the name Watchmen. And I wasn't convinced of that when it was first announced.
I was completely skeptical when I heard they were just rumoring to do a Watchmen series. I was like, how are you going to compete with the movie that did their own thing and totally killed it? Zack Snyder did an amazing job sort of making an original story from the Watchmen, and what they're doing is they're just continuing that story many, many years into the future. And like you said, the very end of the trailer is that Dr. Manhattan teaser, and if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. How about you?
I haven't seen it, but are they? I mean, a question I have is Snyder involved with this at all? Has he had any sort of
I don't think his name's on this title at all. Actually,
no. Yeah, as far as I know, he's not. He's working on his own stuff now, completely outside of DC and Warner's. But I don't think. And none of that has to do with any of the stuff that happened with his DCEU era. I don't think he was ever even up for being attached to this. This is totally Damon Lindelof and everybody else kind of doing their own thing with it now.
But it's cool that they're continuing on with this. I think people have been wondering what was next for that. And it's been a while since that movie came out. I can't remember what year it was.
2009.
Wow.
I knew he would know.
Years. He would know. Yeah. That's why we got you on the call. Yeah.
That's right.
He's encyclopedia over here.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
I think March of 2009. I think.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Star Trek Picard, if you were wrong, I wouldn't even know. Star Trek Picard came out with actually its first trailer, I believe.
Yeah,
and sort of the biggest news to come out of that panel announcement, Brent Spiner, Jerry Ryan, Jonathan Frakes, as well as many other of the alumni from the Star Trek multitude of series are all going to be making appearances. I don't know if they're going to be on the show full-time, but there's going to be a lot of cameos from previous stars and cast members. Are you a big Star Trek follower? Are you excited for the series?
I'm not a big Star Trek follower, but they totally got me with that trailer.
Oh my god!
That panel happened. All of that Star Trek stuff was Saturday morning in Hall H, so I saw it because I was already in there for the Marvel panel, And so I haven't seen Star Trek Discovery yet because, as we're talking about with streaming budgets, I haven't decided I can spend the money on CBS All Access yet. But now, like, the grand plan after seeing this is like, okay, well, once Picard is on this that service, I'm gonna have to subscribe to watch that. Then I'll binge watch Discovery because that Picard trailer was something else. I mean, Patrick Stewart, absolute legend. That's all there really is to say about that. And this series looks fantastic. And man, I don't know how much money they're spending on it, but it looks like a lot. This doesn't look like a TV show or anything. It's very, very cinematic. And the performances look great. It seems to be just going right into the mythology of Picard, but not so much the myth, but really the man and how special he is. And so I'm really up for... I was really excited when I saw that trailer. I thought that one really brought the house down with Hall H, especially with people being able to see Data and 7 of 9 like that. The crowd popped for that because they showed that trailer in Hall H before they brought out Brent Spiner and Jerry Ryan.
Wow.
So the crowd just erupted for that. Then they brought him. Then they played the trailer again. Everybody was so excited that Patrick Stewart had to have them play the trailer again, but he told the crowd to. Because he knew we weren't hearing the information we needed to hear, was telling us to just contain our enthusiasm while we were watching and then just let it all loose at the end, which was a smart move by him. So they played the trailer twice in Hall H and then brought out Jerry Ryan and Brent Spiner. But it was incredible.
Patrick Stewart telling an entire crowd of like 6,000 people to chill out is just
a magical moment. They did.
Yes.
Everybody was quiet the entire trailer and the second time through.
Captain Picard tells you to do something, you do it. That's just how it works.
Yeah, no, the captain spoke. That's all there was to it.
Oh yeah. Your thoughts on the trailer, sir?
I mean, I heard they were doing this series, and I was very interested, and it was just like, this is completely out of Picard's element, but I'm intrigued. I thought his character was long gone. Star Trek tends to move on, but I'm very intrigued. I wasn't as big in the Next Generation as I was the original series, but I'm very, very interested in this. And again, CBS All Access, I got to sign up for that or find somebody that has an account that I can borrow or something. Like
that. I feel like that's everybody's strategy. You're going to have to part-time it.
Pretty much.
Sign up for one streaming service for 1 month and binge everything you wanted to watch, and then sign up for another one a different month, and you're just going to have to rotate.
Make it so.
And Disney Plus knows people, or Disney knows people are going to do that. That's why they have that sweet annual price for Disney Plus to discourage that kind of behavior.
Yep. DC Universe did the same thing, and they were smart with that too. So
yeah.
Yep.
There you go. I'm actually curious because I did see one advertisement that had Amazon on the poster for Picard. So I don't know why that was, why Amazon Prime was on the poster.
They might have it internationally because I don't think CBS All Access is available in every market.
There you go. That's what it is.
I think like Titans, for example, is on Netflix internationally or something like that. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Great segue because now we're going to get into some DC Comics territory really quickly. First off, the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event is coming this fall. It's Arrow's final season, but the biggest news story to come out of the Arrowverse is Brandon Routh will be portraying Kingdom Come Superman during the crossover event. You're the big Superman fan.
Sure.
What does that mean to you?
It's good timing because it's been about 12 years since Superman Returns, and
there you go.
Kingdom Come is basically a series where Superman has been in exile, I guess a self-imposed exile for at least 10 years. And this is basically the Superman. I guess you can say it was DC's version of kind of a Civil War type arc.
Yeah.
A lot of metahumans and so-called vigilantes have run amok. They're just real violent. And he comes out of hiding. He's been in an exile since Lois was killed. I'm not spoiling anything. I mean, this comic's been out for a while.
Way to go, man.
It's on the DC Universe streaming service, or you can go and read the whole thing. So... but it's going to be interesting to see because Superman's been in exile. He's come back. He's a bit more of a hard ass. He's basically immune to kryptonite because he's been exposed to solar radiation for so long. So if I'm interested to see if he's going to be playing the same Superman he was in Superman Returns, just a little bit harder, having been, I said Kingdom Come was like a 10-year exile. This has been 12 years since Superman Returns, and it would make perfect sense, at least for the timing wise.
Sean, I know you binge watch all the Marvel series. Are you keeping up with the Arrowverse at all?
I honestly haven't been keeping up with the Arrowverse. Arrow lost me when Vinnie Jones took the entire city hostage because he had a phone book and knew the mayor's address. Bane had a nuclear bomb.
Phone book? Yeah.
He did. Well, not a phone book. However, he found the mayor's address. Like, he knew the mayor's address. Like, and that's enough to take the Glades, that entire area, hostage. I was like, no, we're done here, guys.
Yeah.
I like Supergirl, so I've checked in on that occasionally. I like The Flash became a little too repetitive for me. So yeah, some of the CW shows just haven't been able to hold my attention. My favorite DC TV series I think since we've started getting these live action series in this current run has been Doom Patrol on DC Universe. So the biggest DC development for me was that Doom Patrol is back for season 2. And the fact that it's going to be on DC Universe and HBO Max, I think it points to what I've anticipated, and I think a lot of people are anticipating. I don't foresee DC Universe existing in its current form for that much longer. I think that's part of why, you've seen things like Swamp Thing being canceled and other series kind of struggling to get renewals. We'll see what happens with it, but if you look at the landscape of what everybody's going to be paying for streaming, there's just no way. I mean, DC Universe is already more expensive than Disney Plus, and people are going to be offered way more on Disney Plus. So I think DC Universe has to scale down to just being a comic service comparable to Marvel's Marvel Unlimited. And then the DC Universe show's got to go on HBO Max, which is why Doom Patrol Season 2, it's going to be kind of right there on the fence, straddling both sides for a little bit until DC Universe probably just gets folded into HBO Max ultimately. But I'm happy with that because you just put it on. As long as I'm still getting the shows, I don't care what the name of my streaming service is, and I'd rather pay for one than pay for two.
There you go. Yeah. No, exactly. Doom Patrol wasn't the only one that got renewed. We did get a renewal for Young Justice. We are getting
Outsider season 4,
and I finally watched today's episode.
Today's episode, yeah.
Season 3 is still great. I'm still loving every episode that comes out. I know it's getting more and more controversial with social media, but what doesn't get controversial on social media nowadays?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about it when season 3 started. Art imitates life. A lot of the trafficking, metahuman trafficking, human trafficking. They're pretty dark with some of the stories. It's pretty cool.
And then we did hear a little bit from the voice actor that played Vandal Savage. He actually let the cat out of the bag that he wasn't going to be on any more episodes in season 3, which we were a little disappointed about that because where are you going to end up at the end of the season?
Or is he?
Could be a rope-a-dope he's playing.
Yeah.
But at least maybe we'll see some of the team finally go up against Darkseid either on Earth or on Apocalypse. I kind of feel like that's where the season's been heading, but who knows what's going to happen. But season 4 of Young Justice, that was huge news because all the fans have been harping on the showrunners and the DC Universe to renew it finally. Sean, are you watching Swamp Thing at all?
I actually haven't checked in with Swamp Thing because I'm so used to the Netflix model. I have to break that habit. I usually let episodes pile up so I can get back into the Netflix binging style. But I'm trying to get myself back to week. That's how it was with Doom Patrol. Is I let a few episodes pile up and then I just couldn't help myself and I had to watch it weekly. So Swamp Thing has been one that I'm letting it pile up. But also now that we unfortunately know it's only going to be one season, I think I am going to wait. I probably will wait for it to be done so I can just watch it all at once. Because I'd rather be sad one time that the show's not going to continue than be sad on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Well, I'm looking forward to hear what your thoughts are on Swamp Thing because, as you said, the cinematography was as good as it looked on Picard is just as good as it is on Swamp Thing.
It's amazing.
It looks great. I mean, obviously, I can't say I can't wait to watch it because I literally am waiting to watch it. But I know it's going to be great. Everybody says it's great, so I'm fully confident that I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it and then just be very sad when it's over.
There you go. Yeah. And to finish off DC Universe, Titans got some news too, right?
Titans Season 2 starts September 6th. I can't recall. We already know Superboy's going to be in there, but it looks like there's going to be possibly some of the Young Justice crew. Actually,
we've heard so many more names and characters on this second season that I've already lost track of all of them. I know we're getting Deathstroke. We're getting the entire Deathstroke family actually in season 2. Aqualad's also going to be on it. We know Crypto's on it. We did see the Superboy teaser at the end of season 1, and that's probably not everybody either.
Now, speaking of the DC service, you have been so iffy about the Harley Quinn series. What did you think of the trailer?
The Harley Quinn trailer is very much out there. And after seeing the panel, I actually have a little bit more of an interest. I saw the panel on the DC Daily when they did the replay.
Yeah.
So the showrunners for the Harley Quinn series, they were intriguing. I loved their thought process, how they handled this new series. They said, we're never going to be as good as Tara Strong, so we're going to do something completely different, which I completely respect. And so I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
What's hilarious is when they said that they were given a there's no other way to say it. They were given a maximum number of times they could use the word fuck in an episode. This is for an animated series I'm talking about, a DC Comics animated series. And the reason why they were given a limit is because when they made the pilot, they had the word used 29 times.
Sweet. This is like a South Park episode where they have the counter in the corner or something like that.
Yeah.
And now their limit is 10. So you're going to get it 10 times every single episode.
Okay. I'm going to be counting.
It is intriguing. They got a great list of voice actors that actually I'm looking forward to hearing.
Nice.
I'm still going to miss Tara Strong as the voice of Harley Quinn, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
Sean, were you able to see that trailer? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm actually, I feel like I'm almost alone. I'm pretty on board with the Harley Quinn series. I mean, I like the trailer that came out last year, long before this one, and then the Comic-Con trailer. I enjoyed it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I guess I don't go into anything with Harley Quinn with the loftiest of expectations. I mean, she's kind of a wacky, I mean, she's a fun character. I love Harley Quinn, and the fact that she started out in Batman the Animated Series and made it into the comic book canon, and that's not the direction that things usually flow. For her to be able to do that, I mean, I love that character, but at the same time, like, I don't expect the richest, deepest, most human storytelling with Harley Quinn. She's over the top. She's born to be over the top.
Yeah.
And just wacky and crazy. So the crazier the better. You might as well just give it a shot. There's almost no. The only way to do it wrong is to take it too seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. Go big or go home. That's what
right.
it is.
Yep.
That's the motto.
To it. Yep.
Let's get into probably one last trailer. Well, I'm going to briefly talk about Terminator Dark Fate. I know there's not a lot of people that are into this series continuing. I'm thrilled because Judgment Day was like one of the movies that, I don't know,
It's still the best Terminator in my opinion.
One of the greatest sci-fi films in history.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And so that's like, it made my childhood. I can't even tell you how many times I saw that movie. So to have Linda Hamilton back. And then the big breaking news from the panel was that Edward Furlong would be coming back as John Connor. He's in none of the trailers, so I'm not expecting this huge role for him in this movie. But just to see John Connor sort of return in any capacity is going to be interesting, and I hope that they just use him in a very valuable way. Sean, see the Terminator Dark Fate? It wasn't really a trailer. I think it was more of a behind-the-scenes featurette.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, I like that, and I like the trailer that they put out before. Like, I thought the plane sequence in the first trailer looked pretty compelling. Like, that looked pretty awesome to me. And I'm a big fan of Gabriel Luna, so this is just a guy who's super easy to root for. I actually had a chance to meet him at LA Comic-Con because I was hosting Chloe Bennett's panel. And then she told me right before we were going to go on stage, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm texting Gabe because I found out he's here." So then, sure enough, Gabriel Luna comes up on the stage with us, and all of a sudden I go from talking to Chloe Bennett to talking to both of them. But he's great as Robbie Reyes, aka Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. I'm glad he's getting his own series, Marvel television series, as Robbie Reyes on Hulu. But I think this movie looks cool. I mean, I've been pretty apathetic about the Terminator sequels, but that's because they haven't had Linda Hamilton.
That's right.
So everything after T2 wasn't really all that interesting to me, but now Linda Hamilton is back, so I'm totally here for that. We'll see what happens when I actually watch the movie, but it's the most excited I've been about the Terminator franchise since T2.
Yeah, I completely agree. Your thoughts on that?
The same thing. It felt like for a while we were just getting a different... it was like a National Lampoon's family vacation thing. Like, they recast the kids every movie. It was like we were recasting John and Sarah and everybody else every movie, it felt like. So it was kind of weird. So seeing her back, it's sort of tying it back into Judgment Day, like you said, and that is pretty exciting.
Yep.
And just seeing Linda Hamilton
Still looking like a badass. Yes.
Complete badass woman on screen, even just for a few seconds during this trailer, just sets my soul on fire. So cannot wait to see that.
She's still jacked. Like,
she is.
She can still bench more than I can.
Still scares the crap out of me. I mean,
Yeah, no, she's fierce.
And it's a formula that's worked in Hollywood over the last few years. It's this formula where you take an old franchise, you forget all the sequels, you just tie it back to sort of the best part of the franchise. Halloween did it by tying it back to the original Halloween film, and now it's a trilogy. That's the biggest news that came out this past weekend. I'm so thrilled that it's a trilogy now. And I would probably put even Rocky into that boat. We had Rocky come back. They forgot all the sequels. They really just wanted to do a spin-off with Creed, and now that franchise has flourished. I think those Creed films have been pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing, yeah.
So if Hollywood keeps on taking the best movies from franchises and making sequels from them, I'm all for it. Speaking of old franchises that are getting new films, I can't forget Tom Cruise surprised Hall H on, I think it was Friday when he came out? Thursday.
Yeah.
It was after the Terminator panel.
That's right.
So,
That's
right. I wasn't in the room, but of course I was kicking myself for not being there. So I was because Thursday morning is actually my convention floor morning, because that's where it's the least crowded. So, but I guess from what I gathered, they did the Terminator panel, and then I guess Conan. I think it was Conan who came out and said like, "Oh, but wait, there's more." And then Tom comes out. Hangs out for a minute, shows the trailer, and then drops the mic as he should, and gets the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And when this film was rumored to be happening, I thought to myself, someone had to have a really great idea in order to make this movie come to life.
Yeah, Tom wouldn't do it because this is the movie that really, this and Risky Business made him famous. This one's pretty iconic, and he stayed away from it for so many years, so somebody had to have something great for him to do.
Well, and he doesn't need it, because he's got Mission Impossible. He's got plenty of other things he can do, and so he didn't have to make another Top Gun. And I think it speaks to that. Like it's almost like Pixar with their non-car sequels. Like they happen a long time after the previous film, and that's because they were only going to do it, and they waited until they actually had a story that they really believed in, that they really felt great about. And I think that's what's happening with Top Gun Maverick. And I think it's it's very relevant. I mean, when people talk about drones all the time. And so, people talk about automation replacing human beings all the time. And that's obviously something that they're playing with that we see in this trailer. So it's very timely as far as the themes that they seem to be dealing with in this story. And when you look at Top Gun, I think still holds up really
completely.
Well. Like I still, maybe that's the nostalgia goggles. It probably is to some extent, but I love the hell out of that movie, and I think it holds up. But then you watch that trailer, and you're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, is Tom Cruise actually flying a fighter jet? Like, it looks like he is. I don't know what's real and what's not in watching that trailer, but it just looks really, really stunning. And there's also a great cast in there. I mean, bringing Val Kilmer back, so it's not just Tom Cruise. And then also, I think somebody to pay attention to. I know Miles Teller's in there. But also watch out for Manny Jacinto, who's one of the stars of The Good Place, which is, I think, one of the best shows on TV right now.
Nice.
So I'm not sure what his role is going to be in there, but he's always pretty good.
Yeah, and you took words out right out of my mouth, because I'm looking at the trailer, I'm like, Tom Cruise is really flying a fighter jet.
It does look like, well, dude.
I mean, he really does everything else, so I'll believe it.
Learned how to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
He took the time to do all of his own helicopter stunts in the last Mission Impossible film.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him to be flying those jets for real and doing all those stunts as well.
Yeah, and what's exciting for me is I'm I guess a little too young to have gone and saw Top Gun in the theater when it first came out, but my parents always told me how awesome it was to see those action shots on the big screen. I'm looking forward not only to seeing Top Gun Maverick, but for the double features that like the Draft House or the local theater will do. Like 10 o'clock we'll show you Top Gun at midnight. Here's Top Gun Maverick. That kind of double features.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that'll be cool to see both movies back to back in a movie theater setting.
Best date night ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, when the music kicks in that trailer, I mean, how do you not just lose your mind?
Oh no, man! I was humming Danger Zone after it was over. I was
taken
back.
For sure.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing to me is that they didn't play any sort of version, either the original or like a modern version of Danger Zone. I think they're saving that for like something new.
Yeah, but you already know it's going to be in there.
It's
going to
be in there.
Save it for the movie.
Yeah,
save it for the movie. I don't want to hear it in the trailers. I want to hear it in the movie.
Exactly. Like I didn't want them to reveal the Aquaman suit in the trailer, but they did it.
They did it anyway.
So, yeah, you know.
Well, they saved it for a while.
They saved it for a while, but still, you know.
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And finally, let's get into your wheelhouse, Sean, because I know you're eager to talk about it. The entire reason why you were at San Diego this past weekend was for the 90-minute Marvel panel.
Oh, I thought you were going to say His Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials.
Yeah.
That's me. That's why I got the books, but yeah, that's fine. All right.
You want to briefly talk about the trailer?
I'll just say I enjoyed the movie. I'm actually very interested in the story. It's a HBO and a BBC thing, and I love the cast. It's a great cast. It is a great cast. I did like the original movie. I thought Dakota Plummer Richards was great, but seeing Daphne Keane take on that role, James McAvoy, who is now in this franchise after he's already been in Narnia, so he's on both sides of that spectrum, which is pretty funny to me. So I'm really looking forward to it. So that's it. That's all I'll say for now. I'll go off on a tangent now.
I don't think James is bad in anything ever.
He's not.
He's one of those
he's definitely not.
For sure things. No.
Marvel, let's do it.
Marvel,
he's wearing a quantum suit, so might as well.
Yeah, man. Whatever it takes. Let's go.
Let's go.
Whatever it takes, exactly. So surprisingly, Marvel decided to come back to Comic-Con after they announced they weren't going to make it, and even so, they decided to come back. They made it as big and as grand as they possibly can. They came out with 10 projects and one hidden one at the end that we'll talk about at the end here.
Yep.
But let's talk about some of the things that some of the general audience, us sitting at home, weren't able to see. May 1st, 2020, is the release date for Black Widow. You got to see a little clip from the movie?
Yeah, we got to see some footage. So, real quick to just set up the Marvel panel. So there's Hall H.
Yeah.
And then there's Marvel Studios in Hall H. And I know you've been there for that. Like, from the time the last panel before Marvel ends through like the 20-30 minutes that they take to set it for the Marvel panel, the crowd is already going nuts.
Yeah.
It's what they've been waiting for the entire day, and it's just electric in there. Like Joe and Anthony Russo ended up sitting a few rows behind me. They were in the Marvel VIP section, so when they were just walking to their seats, of course the crowd loses it because there's Joe and Anthony. And
confirm two things for me. So when Joe and Anthony walk in, the crowd was cheering Russo brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I heard that
I think they were chanting Russo. I think it was Russos.
Oh,
not
Russo
brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Russo. Okay.
And the second thing was, so many people were standing up that the crowd started chanting "sit down" in order to get the show on the road. Is that right?
I didn't hear that, but that might have happened in the back because I had friends who were sitting further back and they couldn't even see who the crowd was cheering for because so many other people had stood up. So I would totally buy that there was a sit down chant, but nobody up front was cheering for that because we could see exactly the reason why everybody was standing. But yeah, the Black Widow panel. That was actually the last thing they did besides the final bombshell they dropped. That was like the last panel they did for a movie, or the only one that had a full panel. So the footage, it opened up with a little bit of a highlight reel of the Age of Ultron stuff, the Red Room sequence from Age of Ultron with Natasha, and then it cut to a clip that was followed by a sizzle reel. So the clip was actually Natasha knocking on a door, and the person who opens the door is Yelena Belova, who's played by Florence Pugh, and so they end up having they draw their guns. They got their guns in each other's faces. They have this little physical exchange where they basically end up trading guns, and then the fist fight starts, and it's just so intense, so visceral. It might already be the best, just pure hand-to-hand combat scene in the MCU, just based on that clip alone. It's definitely up there, of the caliber of what people were so psyched about with Captain America: The Winter Soldier back in 2014. There was a really cool part where they worked their way from the living room of this apartment into the kitchen, just back and forth fighting, kicking, punching, blocking. And then Natasha gets the upper hand for just all of like 2 seconds because she flips Yelena up onto the kitchen counter, takes like a dish rag and is trying to wrap it around her neck and choke her. As her head is over the sink. So because she's head over the sink, Yelena actually reaches back over her own head, grabs a dish from the dirty dish side of the sink, and just smashes it over Natasha's head. And then they just keep fighting through the kitchen, then end up like both on the floor in the living room, just completely exhausted. But it was just, I mean, it was fantastic. And then the clip that goes into a scissor reel that kind of shows that whatever this conflict was, they kind of solve it, and they're kind of buddies, it looks like, for a second. And then it went through this montage of Natasha like jogging like on the mountain, in the mountains in this remote location, and then a motorcycle chase. And then it went to, we started seeing a bunch of other female assassins who kind of look like other Black Widows or other, you know, women from the Red Room, like Natasha and like Yelena. And then it all ends on this kind of bridge at nighttime with this car crash. And then out from the car crash, we see Natasha, but then who also emerges is Taskmaster, the villain from, of course, Marvel Comics. We'll see who that actually ends up being in the movie. And so I thought that was going to be it, because we just see this reveal of Taskmaster in the costume. But then, you know, because it had cut to black, but then it cut back to an actual fight between the two of them that ends in a stalemate with them kind of facing off with each other. So it was all really, really cool stuff. The cinematography was just gorgeous. I don't know if anybody out there is really familiar with Kate Shortland and her style, but she makes some really beautiful looking films. I mean, she's not the DP on this, she's the director, but this really feels like a Kate Shortland movie. And also, she had and also the DP on this is actually Rob Hardy, who did Annihilation and Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Wow. And the Black Widow is dropping May 1st, 2020. Next thing, sort of just within the Marvel timeline that was sort of talked about, fall of 2020 on the Disney Plus streaming service, what I'm looking forward to, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was already interested in this series when it was announced back during the Disney Investor Day when they made the announcement. But then you got a little bit of a surprise in the audience when Baron Zemo crashed the Hall H, right?
Yeah, he crashed it on screen, so it's Daniel Bruhl as Zemo, this time with a beard. And he started off by saying those Bucky trigger words from Civil War, and then said, "Those don't work anymore, do they?" And then went on to kind of talk smack on Sam and Bucky. And then the very last kind of flash was him wearing his iconic purple mask from the comic books. So, or one of those. I mean, there's multiple versions of it in the comics, but he's wearing a purple mask. And if you actually want to see a bit of that, Daniel Bruhl shared it on his Instagram, not the video, but he did share one picture of him without the mask and then one kind of blurry photo of him with the mask. So you can actually, even if you weren't in Hall H, you can actually catch a glimpse of that now.
Looking forward to that. I know a lot of our followers even asking about what that was going to look like. There was a few concept art images that came out, I believe, last year, but this is slightly different than those, I think. So
yeah,
looking forward to that series. I'm sure you're looking forward to this other film they announced, November 6, 2020, Eternals, with this star-studded cast, Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek. Why don't you run through the list for us on who you're looking forward to seeing?
I mean, everybody. I mean, you start with Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek. I can't believe that these incredible actresses are in Marvel movies, and in the same Marvel movie. Yep. I don't know how that happened.
Disney has money.
Blank checks, my friend.
They do have money, but I mean, these are also people who don't need the money, so they have to be excited creatively, and I think that says a lot about where this project is, because Angelina Jolie, she gets offered stuff like this all the time. So if she signs on to one of these, she must feel pretty good about it, and I think everybody feels really good about the director. Chloe Zhao, I don't know if anybody saw her film last year called The Writer. It's a really good movie, so I encourage everybody to check that out. I think Chloe Zhao might be Marvel's best director hire since Ryan Coogler. I just think she's that good, and I think she's gonna go on to have just the most amazing career. So I'm a big believer in her. But then you look at that cast: Richard Madden coming in as Icarus, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo. Kumail is just fantastic, and he's clearly been hitting the weight room, so he might be able to outbench Linda Hamilton, because he's looking pretty jacked right now.
Awesome.
But also Brian Tyree Henry coming in as Phastos. I'm super excited about that. I love him in Atlanta. I love him everywhere we see him. I know we're going to see him in the Joker movie this fall as well, but there's just that cast is so completely stacked. You just can't go wrong. I mean, I know Eternals is a super obscure property, arguably even more obscure than Guardians of the Galaxy, but at the same time, Marvel's been doing this for a long time, is taking a bunch of characters that audiences don't know about and getting those moviegoers to connect with brand new characters. And so I think they're going to do it all over again with Eternals. They couldn't have chosen a better director or a better cast to get the job done. It's a really cool, as Kevin Feige said, it's full Jack Kirby. These are characters that he created, back in the late 70s after he had left Marvel to go to DC. He did New Gods, came back to Marvel, did the Eternals. Really cool concepts and really cool characters, and I think we're gonna see something pretty special there.
I might run through a few of these kind of quicker. February 12th, 2021, Shang-Chi. We finally got some casting announcements. You really excited about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is it's such a fun character, but also, and the Legend of the Ten Rings, taking this brand new character, but also connecting it to literally the beginning of the MCU, the very first scene in the MCU, even though we don't know exactly what they are yet. It's the Ten Rings kidnapping Tony Stark. So this goes all the way back to the beginning of that. And the real Mandarin was teased in the All Hail the King one-shot that was spun off of Iron Man 3, but actually attached to the Thor the Dark World Blu-ray. We knew there was a real Mandarin out there somewhere. We're finally going to meet him, and it's going to be a battle between that character and Shang-Chi. And also, Destin Daniel Cretton, Short Term 12, is a fantastic film from several years ago, and a lot of people that you're following today, like Brie Larson, Rami Malek, Lakeith Stanfield, that was kind of their big break movie. That was kind of their breakout film, was Short Term 12 a number of years ago. So I'm excited about that, but also really excited about Simu Liu. I'm not as familiar with him as an actor, but he totally won over Hall H when he walked out there. He's just funny, charming, and told this great story how the Hall H panel was on Saturday. He screen tested the previous Sunday, got the role on Tuesday, and then was in Hall H on Saturday. So all in the span of a week, this guy got the job and was in front of 6,500 people as Shang-Chi for Marvel Studios. That's pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
It's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it. Yeah. WandaVision, spring 2021, announced again another Disney Plus streaming service. A lot of these streaming services are sort of happening in alternate timelines. Is this one of those, or is this sort of like a prequel?
It's not an alternate timeline. We don't know what this means yet. We just because this what we do know is that Scarlet Witch, what happens to her in this series is going to feed directly into her popping up in Doctor Strange. But with WandaVision, it actually has this. There's something up with it because there's a little bit of concept art that flashed inside Hall H as they were revealing, the title of the project that they were going to be discussing. And what we saw in there was we saw like almost a Leave It to Beaver kind of vibe of this this 1950s nuclear family that Wanda and or Vision seem to have created for themselves. So I don't know what this means in terms of Vision being present. I don't know if he's been brought back to life, or because if you know anything about Wanda Maximoff in the comics, sometimes she can conjure up family members in her mind and have them actually look like they're real people. So for maybe WandaVision is really Wanda's vision in that all of this is fake. It's all happening inside a reality she's created for herself.
A little bit of a play on the title.
Yeah, it might all be in her head. So
Yep.
And then of course Loki, we knew about that, and they pretty much confirmed that's going to be the Loki that just disappeared in the middle of Endgame.
Yep, that is going to be the Loki who got away with the Tesseract. So that actually is an alternate timeline, a branch timeline based on the rules of Endgame. So what's interesting about that is, it's easy to kind of forget, but Tom Hiddleston was there and made sure to clarify. You remember Loki from Avengers in 2012. He's still that guy. We watched Loki after Avengers go through this entire redemption arc. This Loki hasn't been through any of that. So he's still going to be more. Loki's always been conflicted, but he's definitely leaning more villain at this stage as he's got the Tesseract. So it should be a lot of fun.
That's going to be great. And one that I'm really looking forward to, Doctor Strange, the sequel, in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm finally glad that Marvel's sort of playing with the idea of multiverse. We sort of got a little bit of a tease with that in Spider-Man Far From Home, but alas, it wasn't,
Spoiler alert.
What was happening with Mysterio. Go figure, Mysterio wasn't being honest with us. But Doctor Strange 2 might deal with the multiverses in the Marvel Universe, which can set a precedent for many of things to happen in the MCU. So, Sean, what are you most excited about with the Doctor Strange sequel?
Well, first off, that's one of the greatest titles I've ever heard in my life.
Multiverse of Madness.
In the Multiverse of Madness is extraordinary. And, we saw Doctor Strange very briefly because the Ancient One sent him on that tour of the multiverse when he first got to Kamar-Taj in the first Doctor Strange film. So we've seen that, but now if we're going to actually explore it, and Scott Derrickson, who's returning as director, when he came up and said that this is going to be the MCU's first scary film, that had me thinking of Nightmare, who was an antagonist that actually goes all the way back to Doctor Strange's very first appearance in Strange Tales 110. That was the first villain that he encountered, was Nightmare. So I hope that character pops up in there. Totally makes sense to have a villain named Nightmare in a movie that's supposed to be a scary one. So I'm rooting for that. But also, when you're talking about the multiverse, may not be the only antagonist. Who knows what this adventure is going to be? We know that Wanda Maximoff is going to be playing a part in it. But the other thing that has me thinking that this may not be as literal of an exploration of the multiverse as we might think. It totally could be, but just also go with the play on words in the title, the multiverse of madness. So it could be the multiverse within the mind. It may not necessarily be the multiverse, a literal multiverse.
Especially if Wanda's involved too.
Exactly. Depending on whatever the hell the deal is with WandaVision, that could certainly go a long way in pointing us towards some clues for Multiverse of Madness.
Definitely can. Mm-hmm. 2 more series that were announced: summer 2021, the What If animated series, and then fall 2021, the Hawkeye series. I don't know if you guys got any sizzle reel or sort of teases with the What If series. Anything happen around that?
No, what they did show us for the What If series, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's an anthology series. These stories are not canon in the MCU, just like the What If comics are not canon with Marvel Comics. It's just different hypothetical scenarios. Like one episode that has been talked about, not in Hall H, but it was mentioned during the Investor Day, is what if Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum and Steve Rogers ended up wearing a Iron Man-esque suit created by Howard Stark in World War II. So that's going to be one of the episodes. But what we did get in Hall H is because they've already said that the actors who play these characters in live action, they're going to be lending their voices to this series. And so they put up a huge graphic that showed, of course, many of the actors of the MCU who are going to reprise their roles. And what I was pleasantly surprised to see on that list was Josh Brolin, which means we're going to get Thanos in at least one of these episodes. Well, they also had all kinds of people like Chris Sullivan, who plays Taserface, Jeff Goldblum, who plays the Grand Master, of course, Chris Hemsworth for Thor. I mean, I think I saw Tessa Thompson on there. So there's a lot of people who are involved in the MCU. I mean, they pretty much got just about everybody.
And something that we did see a little bit from Jeremy Renner, who was nearly kicked out of Hall H for recording his own video panel, was a little bit of a teaser, an animated teaser to the Hawkeye live-action series that's coming out on the Disney service.
That's like a Ryan Reynolds moment, if you ask me. But that's pretty fun.
Yeah, the most important, part of that is, as those graphics were going through the screen, one of them, of course, showed a female Hawkeye, who, of course, as Marvel fans know, that's Kate Bishop in the comic books, and so. Then, of course, Jeremy Renner elaborated on that and confirmed that basically Clint Barton in this series is going to be training Kate Bishop to become a better version of Hawkeye, because Kate Bishop is also Hawkeye in Marvel Comics, and that's a character people have wanted for a long time in the MCU. There's a lot of talk, a lot of fan speculation about some sort of young Avengers team coming together, because we're getting more and more young heroes in the MCU between Peter Parker and Shuri. To add Kate Bishop into the mix, it just feels like we're getting that much closer to a young Avengers squad.
Looking forward to that, if that ever happens. And last but not least of the general announcements that they made, November
that have dates.
November 5th, 2021, closing out the Phase 4, or at least for now, the Thor Love and Thunder film, where it was announced that Natalie Portman, who many have thought was sort of done with the MCU, is coming back in a big way.
Yes.
Yeah, Thor Love and Thunder, the only title in my life I've ever heard that's better somehow than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
That logo, man. It's Masters of the Universe look, man. That's the first thing I thought when I saw that logo. So,
the logo is fantastic. Taika being back. I mean, I expected him to be back, but still happy to see him actually walk out on that Hall H stage. You had Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson were there. Tessa Thompson also confirming that Valkyrie is going to be King Valkyrie of Asgard is going to be searching for her queen in this movie. So that was also a big revelation. But the Natalie Portman news, when Taika started teasing, when he was saying, he was talking about Jason Aaron and the Mighty Thor and, a female version of Thor, I was like, he's about to bring out Gwendolyn Christie, because I thought there was no way that Natalie Portman was going to come back. I mean, I knew, obviously,
nobody did.
Spoiler for the comics, Jane Foster is the female Thor, or the Mighty Thor in Marvel Comics. But I thought that Natalie Portman was done, so I thought that Marvel Studios wasn't going to be able to actually do that. but I guess she's not done. But I think that's also just speaks very highly of Taika Waititi. I think regardless of where she was at in terms of her desire to work with Marvel again, and not that there was bad blood, but just if she was over the character and not excited about the franchise anymore, you look at what Taika Waititi has done in Thor Ragnarok, and if you've watched any of his other films, you just kind of get it. And I'm pretty sure just about every actor in Hollywood would jump at the chance to work with Taika Waititi. So I think that that was a huge factor in Natalie Portman coming back, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. When she came out, Taika got down on one knee and presented her with Mjolnir. Like, it was just the coolest thing. Such an incredible Hall H moment, and a total shock because, as you say, I mean, a lot of us thought that Natalie Portman, that her days, I mean, she did her brief little bit for Endgame, but we thought that her time was done.
And I even heard that Endgame was a lot less Natalie Portman. It was either a combination,
stock footage or something like that.
A combination of used footage, and I heard maybe a stand-in double during certain scenes, but I'm not really sure.
It was her, but it was a green screen thing where they had to drop her in because she wasn't able, for whatever reason, she wasn't able to come to set because it was actually supposed to be more. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who wrote Endgame, they talked about that during their Friday panel in Hall H. They mentioned how the scene of Rocket getting the ether/reality stone from Jane, that was a much bigger thing, and then it kind of got whittled down. But I think it actually ended up working better because it was shorter.
Oh, please put that on Disney Plus. That just has humor.
Well, they can't. Yeah, they can't because they never shot it.
Yeah, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be a what if.
Yeah.
Speaking of Endgame, one of the either deleted. I don't think it was a deleted scene. I think it was just something that they had written that never happened. Was Thanos actually murders and decapitates, I believe, the 2012 Captain America.
Technically 2014. That was also a revelation in the Marcus and McFeely panel. And so what they talked about, because I actually got to go to that panel and the Russo brothers panel while people were holding my spots for the Hall H line. So I got to take a small little break from my many, many hours of camping out. But anyway, that was at one point in the script. This was never shot. This idea was canceled before they even finished writing it. So 2014 Thanos, when he sees, because we see this part in Endgame where he sees that the Avengers have killed him, that they are now trying to go, he's realized that they're trying to undo what he's done, that he actually won and they're trying to undo it. And so his reaction is more angry in this version of the script, where he immediately goes, and of course it when you know how time travel works in Endgame, you know it's completely useless, but he does this anyway. He goes and he actually slaughters the 2014 Avengers. And so as he comes back onto his ship, like you see in the background that like Giant Man is lying dead, and he comes back onto his ship and he just throws onto the ground the severed head of Captain America, which probably would have been a bit much for a PG-13 movie. But also I think more important than in terms of why this got cut, it's the futility of that act, which is why there's no reason to have it in Endgame and why it got dropped.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
You already had one decapitation already in the movie, so it's like
you did.
There was kind of a futility in that act as well. So yeah,
very true.
There you go.
Got that. Mm-hmm.
Once is enough. Twice, it's not anything.
Twice, and it's like okay, now you're in rated R territory. Language,
exactly, exactly.
So Sean and the rest of Hall H have loved the entire 90-minute panel. They think everything is over. They have the entire MCU cast in attendance. And Kevin Feige says, hold on a second. We have one more thing we want to announce to you, I believe. Sean, you want to say how this all went down?
Yeah, so the first thing, he brought everybody who had been, part of the panel and part of the presentation. He brought them all back on stage because he was giving out, Black Widow hats. This isn't quite the same version they were wearing on stage. Theirs is a nicer version, but we still got one in Hall H, which was cool. But as they were getting together for a photo op, and they did that. And I'm sure you've seen Marvel Studios share that picture. If not, check their social media; it's on there. You can also find it on MarvelStudiosNews.com. But what he was also saying was, we talked about all this stuff, and here's what we didn't talk about. Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then he said Fantastic Four, and then he said mutants, not X-Men. He went on to say later that he meant mutants and X-Men interchangeably, so he wasn't trying to say they wouldn't be X-Men. But just hearing Kevin Feige say the words Fantastic Four and mutants in Hall H, that got a huge reaction, because of course it did. Previously, he's never been able to talk about this stuff in Hall H. So that alone was kind of felt like, okay, this is the end. And he says, "Oh, and one more thing." And he brings out and he introduces him as two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. Walks out, and he takes from like out of his coat. He takes a hat on. He puts it on, and it's a Blade hat. And then they show like they flash this Blade logo on screen, and of course everybody just goes absolutely nuts for it because nobody saw that coming. You can go back and you can look at most of these projects that Marvel talked about. We didn't have these specific details like titles and release dates, but we knew about them in a very at least in a vague general sense. A lot of the stuff that Marvel talked about, but nobody knew about the Mahershala Ali thing for Blade, and it's so amazing. It was just incredible to be there for that moment. I mean, go back to 2016. I think you might have been. I think you were there for that one, Ted, when Brie Larson was introduced as Captain Marvel.
I was at that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one was, the crowd went nuts for that, but it was also a little bit expected because there had been reporting about Brie Larson being Captain Marvel. There's been none of this. Nobody had even caught like the slightest whiff of Mahershala Ali being brought in for Blade. So it was an incredible announcement.
Yeah, it's completely out of the dark. I think the only thing I would compare it to is the 2015 Batman v Superman. It's not 2015. Oh, maybe it was. What year was it? 2014 when they did the logo in Hall H?
2013 was the logo with Harry Lennix doing the reading from Dark Knight Returns. 2014 was the very first footage from Batman v Superman.
Which, the whole announcement of Blade, this day and age, it's remarkable that you can keep something like that a secret for so long.
Oh, for
Who
sure.
knows how long they've been working on that. And
well, Feige talked about it, I think, with Rotten Tomatoes. So it all happened this year because he said it all was initiated after Mahershala Ali won his second Oscar for Green Book earlier this year. So I guess it was actually, the coolest thing about this is it's actually Mahershala who initiated it. He was the one who actually wanted to have a meeting with Marvel. And so, of course, Marvel's like, one of the best actors working today wants to meet with us. So what do you say? Yes. And so they met with him, and he was talking, and Mahershala Ali was telling Kevin Feige that he was a big fan of the Marvel Universe and, just doing the normal pleasantries and everything. And then he cut to the chase and said Blade, and Kevin Feige again said the only thing you should say, yes. And then they've been having, I guess, meetings since then, and subsequently working on this thing. I don't know that there's not really a story or script or director or anything like that attached yet. It's just, it's basically this Mahershala Ali driven vehicle at this point. But Marvel Studios and their track record, so they're out, and with Mahershala Ali in the lead, they're obviously going to put together something special.
There you go.
The Blade movies are great enough, so now to remake that, it's been wow.
Who's the director that did Get Out? Was it
Jordan Peele?
Jordan Peele. That's my first director choice right there to put on the Blade project.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have jumped to. He has previously said that he probably wasn't going to do a comic book movie, but when you look at the pieces on the table for this one,
you can't turn that down.
You could, but we'll see. I'm not saying, I don't know that he's definitely going to end up in it, but he might actually be willing to take a meeting on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope so. And then I think it's fantastic. And then Wesley Snipes, I don't know if you saw this today. Wesley Snipes came out and people were saying, there's still this sort of hardcore fan base for Wesley in the original series and the franchise, which is great. But Wesley came out and said, no, y'all need to just quit all that, cool it. He loves Mahershala.
I never say his name.
Mahershala. He loves all of his work. He said he's gonna, praise him and give him his props, and he respects Marvel and the MCU. He says let them do their thing, and he says he's not done either. So I don't know if he'll be tied to the project in any way. Some fans are saying
I think
he could be a mentor.
I was gonna say it should be a cameo on some level.
I don't think he'll get. I don't think it'd be a featured role, but a cameo would be totally appropriate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that Mahershala Ali also put on his Instagram a picture of Wesley Snipes as Blade and just kind of had the king, the crown emoji. So there's a lot of respect there, and Kevin Feige even being asked after the panel, and there was another interview where he just said, "Look, there is no Blade without Wesley Snipes."
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of respect, but you also understand this is a brand new iteration. And Wesley Snipes, who I actually saw recently at the Stanley tribute event back in January. He doesn't look his age, but he is still his age. And so if you're going to start this franchise brand new in the MCU, it had to be a different actor. And as we can see from how Kevin Feige described it, this whole thing came about because Mahershala Ali wanted to do it. It's not something that Marvel Studios was already wanting to do and in the process of searching for actors. Like Mahershala Ali kind of brought this to them. And so that's part of why he's the guy. But it was always going to be a different guy anyway. But I'm sure that Marvel Studios will pay their respects to Wesley Snipes and probably give him that cameo in the film.
I hope so.
Which I just love. I think it's going to work out just fine. And it's sort of one of those projects just like James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think Guardians was on Marvel's radar completely until...
Oh, it was actually. They were the ones who pitched... Yeah, they were the ones who pitched him on it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, no, he wanted to make a Hit Monkey movie, and because he's told the story, like he went to Marvel, and he had his ideas of what he wanted to do. Marvel pitched him on Guardians of the Galaxy. He actually didn't want to do it at first, and then it was on his car ride home where he started thinking about all of the ideas that he would do with the movie, and then all of a sudden he just couldn't not do it. But no, that was actually Marvel pitching it to Gunn.
All right,
nice.
There you go.
That's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. So looking forward to Blade, and like Sean said, it was you never put it past Marvel on their showmanship. They know how to put on a show.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely electric. I mean, from start to finish, but then really brought the house down with that final thing. I mean, I compared it to on the Marvel Studios News podcast, like when Mahershala Ali came out, like. And putting on the hat and like meeting the president of the studio, I'm like, that's like the NFL top draft picks, like walking out on the stage, like get drafted, putting the hat on, like hugging the commissioner and all that stuff. Like it just felt like that. But yeah, it was incredible. And for Marvel, I mean, Mahershala Ali is a top draft pick. I mean, come on, like a 2-time Oscar winner is now going to lead a franchise for you.
And I love the look on his face and the huge smile he just had putting on that hat.
He's so excited.
Yeah,
you can tell
he was so genuinely happy, and I think also just genuinely moved by the reaction in Hall H. I mean, I can only imagine what it must feel like to be on that stage and stare out into that crowd. And Florence Pugh, actually from Black Widow, she did a great job describing it. Like from the stage, you can't see the back of the room.
No.
So it's just this endless sea of people, which in some ways would be scary, but they all love you and are all cheering for you, and so that's got to be fun. I mean, for actors especially, that's not their normal environment. They do things on a closed set, and then the audience watches it later. They're not live performers. It's not like Beyonce or whatever, who's used to seeing seas of people cheering while she's on stage. So I'm sure they probably feel like rock stars when they're on that Hall H stage. And Mahershala Ali was definitely enjoying himself, as Simu Liu also did as well for Shang-Chi. It's just great to see these actors being embraced by the fans and just being able to feel the love in that room.
Well, they need to soak it all in because they're going to be there for many, many years to come, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He'll be back when he's got footage to show for Hall H.
We need to get you out there, sir.
I would love to get out there. Yeah, when the kids are a little older.
I know.
For a bit.
I know. Sean described it earlier when we started this show, which is going on longer than I thought it would be. What it always does, though.
Oh yeah,
that's me.
The way
it's all good.
I said famously long-winded.
It's all good, man. And then the best way I described it is you're familiar with our area. We have Fiesta. Sean, you got to hit this up one day.
Yes.
Or one of these years. But Fiesta is sort of just a celebration of food and culture.
A lot of margaritas.
In most cases,
a lot of margaritas. That's
in
fine.
most cases, alcohol. But Fiesta's not dedicated or centered around one area. It's literally
all over town.
Events that happened over a 10-day period, all over each corner of the city. And so when people ask, what is San Diego Comic-Con like? And I say, well, it's probably the only convention that doesn't reside solely within the walls of the convention center. The entire downtown of San Diego, for about a 10 square block radius or 15 block radius, is completely filled with like-minded, passionate fans and just pop-up events all over the place. So the best way to put it is it's Fiesta for Geeks.
Love it.
It is. It's also the only convention that you don't actually need a ticket for in order to enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I agree with that sentiment completely because there's so many things to do outside and so many great fans that you can meet and speak with, and just it's just one of a kind. And I recommend it to anyone. If you're watching right now, if you've never been, find a way to get there. If you want, the first step to do is just register with San Diego Comic-Con on their website, and you have to do it a year in advance. Why? Because you have to. If you decide to do it...
Because rules.
Because rules. If you decide to do it a month or two before the actual convention, you're not going to go. Trust me, because that's what I did the year before I went. I was like, I'll just sign up now. No, that's not how it works. So the first thing you do is you just register with the Comic-Con International website, and then just read all their steps on how things go, and then may the force be with you, because there is a certain amount of luck that it takes just to get in, and then there's a certain more amount of planning that it takes to just get to San Diego and find where you're going to stay, unless you want to be like Sean or myself, and you're not completely against sleeping on the floor or just camping outdoors for a couple of nights in a row. Isn't that right, Sean?
It's the only camping I do.
Nice. Nice.
All right. I'll just leave you with this. I know that on certain Hall H occasions, when you're camping out, there's many of celebrities. We've met Andy Serkis in the past. Zack Snyder pulled up in the Batmobile the first year that I went. That kind of it set all my expectations for the rest of San Diego, my entire experience with it. James Wan came out 1 year and met with the fans. What was the sort of big surprise this year? Was there one?
There wasn't one, at least not as far as I knew. I mean, I went to rarely. I usually don't fall asleep until like 1:30 or 2 a.m. out there in that Hall H line on Friday night. I actually fell asleep maybe a little after midnight. But I figured that we weren't going to get anybody, because Marvel Studios was being so secretive about their panel. That meant nobody from their panel could come out, because it would give away that they were there.
Yeah.
So, of course, nobody from... I thought maybe somebody from Star Trek might come out, but Sir Patrick Stewart, I mean, he loves his fans, but he's also, I mean, not going to be, I don't think, going to be coming out to a Hall H line at midnight or 1 a.m., especially when his panel's at 11. So I didn't see anybody walk the line. And then when I woke up the next morning, I asked around, and apparently nobody walked the line this year, which is rare. Usually at least somebody comes out during late Friday night or very, very early Saturday morning for the Hall H line. That just didn't happen this time.
Yeah, the Saturday line didn't, I guess from what you're saying, Saturday didn't get any luck this year, but I believe the Friday night line did. The Hulu series, The Boys, actually had some of the cast members come out, and they brought, oh gosh.
I heard they brought food?
They did bring food, and they brought foam fingers that said F Soups on it.
Nice.
So taking a shot at the Man of Steel, but that's the kind of series that it's going to be. It's going to be fantastic.
Anti-superhero, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I think their F Soups is not F Superman.
Exactly. It's not direct. Yeah. There you go. So that's San Diego Comic-Con in a nutshell. There's plenty more probably to talk about. We didn't get into exclusives, some of the smaller panels and things like that. But it's always just a great place to be around about hundreds of thousands of other people that are just as passionate as you are about the same things that you're passionate about. So it's just that kind of a place. It's just wonderful to be in. I wish 1 year I can just go and just cosplay the entire weekend. That way I can just have a much more calmer, relaxing time. But I always just, like you said, commit myself, or you dedicate yourself to doing sort of a handful of things that you just really need to see and be a part of. And it's always worth it, though, when you do it that way.
It's hard to overcome that FOMO for Hall H.
It really is. So you're not retiring yet, right?
I mean, we joke about it every year, but no, I mean, I don't think I'm retiring.
I'd say because there's a lot to look forward to. I know we did get not the normal Marvel panel, but DC's probably going to come back in a big way next year, because a lot of their movies are going to start going into production.
I'll believe that when I see it. I don't. They had plenty to promote. They've already wrapped production on Wonder Woman 1984, Birds of Prey, and Joker. They would have footage available. They're screen testing Wonder Woman, so don't tell me they can't cut together a trailer for Hall H. Obviously, they could cut together some stuff for Joker. And Birds of Prey, they could totally put something together if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Plenty to promote, and they didn't show up. I'm a little worried, since this is the very first Comic-Con since AT&T fully took over, that the accounting nerds in AT&T looked at how much Comic-Con costs and told Warner Brothers, you don't get to play there. And so I think I'm very concerned at this point that the whole them saying that they would be back next year was just to save face and not have everybody just completely panicking. But at this point, I'll be very surprised if they pop up next year, if they return.
I hope so, and it's not surprising you say any of that, in which they should return next year with hopefully some footage from the Batman featuring Robert Pattinson. But AT&T has rumored to be sort of the root cause of why Swamp Thing got canceled, if you believe some of the sources in the reports, saying that not only were there financial troubles in regards to some of the production costs that didn't pan out well with the state of North Carolina, but I heard just the same things. AT&T execs are meddling with certain factors of the DC universe, and so that's why Swamp Thing got the axe.
It sucks. It's a great series. So
it really does. All right. And hate to end it on that note, but looking forward to future San Diego Comic-Con events. I'm sure we're going to meet again probably next year, Sean, if you're not retiring just yet. And I'll drag you out there one year. Probably not next year, but very soon.
I was going to say, you just got a newborn here, so I don't know when you're going to get out there yourself. So.
I will find a way. Yeah. When there's a will, there's a way. And who says she's not going to be cosplaying? She's going to be a little baby Harley Quinn going down the expo floor. Yeah, no, I'm going to love it.
Exactly.
Sean.
In the meantime, Sean, you get out here for Fiesta. We'll show you a party.
Boom.
So, yeah.
All the margaritas you can have, sir.
I'm going to have to take you up on that.
All right.
Sean, thanks again for joining us for the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Steady. This has been our San Diego Comic-Con recap episode. With me was the man, the myth, the legend, JC.
Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.
And all the way from Los Angeles, California, from Marvel Studios News, the one and only Sean Gerber.
Thank you to everybody who listened, and also thank you to Ted and JC for having me on.
Appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.
Hey guys, AJ Nyland here. For more Geekcast episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes or your smart device podcast app. And please, write us a review. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/CountdownCityGeekcast. Follow us on Twitter at CCG_podcast or visit our website at www.countdowncitygeekcast.com. See you later, guys.